Is anyone else following this Kiely Rodni case? Because this is one of the weirdest cases I've ever encountered. I'll try to give you the short version because there's a lot of really weird details in here. But basically, a couple weeks ago, a 16-year-old girl named Kiely Rodni went missing from Truckee, California. She was going to a senior farewell party at a campground in Truckee with about 300 people. And she seemingly went missing without a trace, her and her car. The next day, her mom woke up, Kiely wasn't there, and no one knew where she was. No one saw anything. None of the 300 people saw anything. Shortly after being reported as missing, the police were pretty quick to say this might be an abduction. There was a massive search for her. I think it was like 20,000 cumulative man hours, including sonar for the lakes, helicopters, dogs, divers, everything. And no one could find her. Weird stuff started happening with some of her friends, and that's kind of when the true crime community on YouTube got invested. The case kind of started going viral throughout the true crime community, and it got the attention of Adventures with a Purpose. Adventures with a Purpose is another YouTube channel. AWP is a non-profit group of volunteers who have solved a pretty decent amount of cold cases using their equipment. They have given peace to so many families. Anyway, they don't usually take on cases like this, but because of the attraction it was getting in the area, they decided to come out and bring all of their top-of-the-line equipment. The local police department told them, you don't need to check this body of water, it's already been checked. This body of water was not even half a mile away from where Kiely went missing. They decided that they were going to check the water, and they found Kiely's car and Kiely submerged in 14 feet of water, very close to the shoreline. Before they found Kiely, everyone was like, this is weird. It has something to do with the friends. Someone's not talking. After they found her, everyone was like, well, dang, it might just be a drunk driving accident. However, Adventures with a Purpose just released a private video to members only. And this is what it's titled: How We Found Kiely Rodni, Murder or Accident. I've gone back and forth with this case of what I think happens. I went from accident to foul play, back to accident. But after watching this video, I'm feeling like it's foul play. This is a very respected group of guys in the true crime community. They are not the type of people to clickbait titles and clickbait information to get views and money. They don't really profit off of the videos. The money they make goes back into their projects. So for them to so confidently discuss what they discussed in this video leads me to believe that this is foul play. I don't think anyone's gonna watch this video because it's 3 minutes long, but this is a case I've been following all August, and it's crazy. If you want to watch Adventures with a Purpose's video, it is behind a paywall. You need to be a member of their YouTube, but once again, the money they make goes into solving cold cases for families like Kiely. What do you guys think is happening?
Today, August 30th, marks the 9th anniversary of Bryce Laspisa's disappearance. In August 2013, 19-year-old Bryce Laspisa was starting his sophomore year of college at Sierra College in Northern California. Bryce's friends started noticing some odd behaviors from him, like him being very paranoid, so they called his parents to let them know what was going on. His parents were concerned for his well-being, so they decided that they wanted him to drive home. His home of Laguna, California was about a 7-hour drive from Sierra College. But the next morning, Bryce still wasn't home, and his parents got a service request at a rest stop called Buttonwillow. They're able to get in contact with somebody at that service station, and the person says that he had filled up Bryce's gas tank a few hours earlier. But he says he'll go check for him, and he finds that Bryce was still there. He had been sitting in the same exact spot for 3 hours. So finally, Bryce's parents got a hold of him, and he said, okay, I'll get on the road and I'll be home soon. A few hours later, Bryce was still not home, so his parents, concerned at this point, contacted the police. They were able to get the phone company to do an emergency trace of his cell phone that found that his phone was still sitting at that same location in Buttonwillow. He had still been there for hours and hours and hours. His parents then asked the police to go do a wellness check on him, so they did. They were able to find him, and he was still at that same Buttonwillow rest stop. They did a sobriety test on him, and he was sober, and his behavior seemed normal to them. So there was nothing more they could do, and they encouraged him to once again call his parents. He talks to his parents again and says that he's going to get on the road, but a few more hours go by, and he was still sitting at that same rest stop. And that same serviceman from earlier that his parents spoke to actually called his parents back saying he's still here. This serviceman then gets in his car behind Bryce and basically follows him onto the highway. By this point, it's the next night and Bryce is finally on the road. So he calls his parents again and they are asking him where he is, what landmarks he can see, so that they can get an idea of when he'll be home. But he pretty much says it's too dark for him to tell, but that his GPS was telling him he was going to be home by 3 a.m. But just after 2 a.m., his parents got another call from him saying that he was too tired to keep driving and he was going to pull off the road for the night. But a lot of people find this very bizarre because if he was supposed to be home by 3 a.m., he must have been very close to home at this point. The final call from Bryce to his parents went out at 2:09 a.m., and that was the last time anyone spoke to or heard from Bryce. 6 minutes later, Bryce's car was seen on security camera veering off the highway. It seems like he is speeding through rough terrain and going towards a cell tower, but there's no apparent reason why he veered off the road. Go to part 2. This is part 2 of the disappearance of Bryce Laspisa that happened 9 years ago today. So Bryce's car was seen on security footage veering off the highway. And then a few minutes later, it is seen again on security footage before it is not seen on any video for the next 2 hours. Around 5:15 a.m., Bryce's car went off the side of the road, down a ridge, and tumbled. The next morning, his car was found with the window kicked out and all of his belongings gone. But there was no sign of Bryce anywhere in the surrounding areas. Police did several searches for Bryce, including using trace canines, and they tracked his scent for quite a ways where he would have walked on foot. But at some point, his scent just disappears. That could mean that he got into a car or something else. And despite multiple searches over the years, no sign of Bryce has been found anywhere. Some people speculate that he could have gotten a head injury from the crash and maybe couldn't remember who he was, or that he met with foul play. But no matter what happened, his family is left 9 years later still wondering.
All right, you guys, so Jamesia Brown and Cameron Jones were a young couple out of Natchez, Mississippi. So Jamesia was 18 and Cameron was 16, and they were expecting their first child together. So Jamesia and Cameron, they had a huge baby shower for their little boy. And they were so excited when Jamesia did give birth to their son. Everything was going well for this couple until May 1st of 2020. On May 1st of 2020, around 1:45 a.m., Jamesia's mom heard gunshots. Now, she did go outside to look around, and she didn't see nothing wrong at first. Jamesia and Cameron were sitting in the car in the driveway, and when the mom went up to the car, that's when she saw Jamesia and Cameron had been shot. Now, sadly, Jamesia did die on the scene. They tried to airlift Cameron to a hospital, but he did pass away before he was airlifted.
Community to help after 2 teens were shot to death Friday night. Loved ones of the teens are pleading for answers and justice. 3 on Your Side's Chelsea Sellers has tonight's top story.
He was a happy child. Police fixed sharing a picture of her 16-year-old son, Cameron Jones, and his girlfriend, 18-year-old Jamesia Brown. The teenagers were shot to death outside of Kenny Graves' apartment complex near Graves Avenue and Ingram Circle.
I received a phone call from the other victim's mom saying that my son had been shot. I need to get to the hospital and that her daughter was dead.
So the question in everybody's mind, who would gun down this young couple in their own driveway? Jamesia's mom. Jamesia was in a car accident 3 days before the murder. She claimed that she had been intentionally driven off the road, but investigators are saying that they had to file a complaint and it was a whole process of things they had to do. Now, she didn't get to do this because she was murdered days later. When it came to the accident that Jamesia was in and her feeling like she was ran off the road, investigators really dropped the ball because they didn't get a lot of information. No one really knows what happened that day, but her mom is really trying to get answers. Now, allegedly, a few hours before the murder took place, it was a video recording of Jamesia basically having a back and forth with a young lady and her mother. Now, this young lady allegedly drove past Jamesia's house with a weapon outside of the window, but these people have never been named a suspect, and they quickly lawyered up after Jamesia and Cameron's murder.
Peanut
intense. What? I don't know how to open it. Oh. It's a twist off. It doesn't look like a twist off. Hey, you have a little something on your face right there. Do you want me to get it for you? Yeah, okay. I got you. There, all gone.
Now, eventually, a 18-year-old woman by the name of Samaj Contrice Jackson was arrested for the murder of Cameron and Jamesia. But she was only given a $50,000 bond apiece for each murder. She was able to make bond and she's out awaiting the murder trial. What's crazy is Samaj is not believed to be the shooter. Now, they believe there are more than one shooter because they believe somebody came up on both sides and started shooting inside of the car. So even though we do have somebody who has been arrested and charged, we still don't know who all was involved in these murders.
Quite a few murders, and that's what this appears to be to me. You know, there was no altercation, there was no confrontation. They just apparently came up behind him and shot him.
The shooter or shooters are still on the run. Deputies are calling on the community to help.
At this point, we have exhausted all of our leads. We're counting on the public to come forward and help us with this senseless killing.
This was his first birthday.
Vic's surrounded by family, remembering her favorite moments with her youngest sons.
Friendship, just being himself, because he didn't bother nobody. I mean, he really didn't. He would always, if he could help you, he could. He would do anything to go. He would go out his way to help anyone.
So Jamesia and Cameron's family, they're praying for justice because this little boy does not have a mother or a father anymore. Their baby was only 5 months old when both of them were tragically murdered. They were a young couple who was extremely excited about going into adulthood and becoming parents. Now, if you have any information on the murder of Jamesia Brown or Cameron Jones, please contact police. And you guys, please comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this case.